Hello, everyone. You are listening to episode 229 of At Percussion Podcast, which will be released on May 14th. My co-hosts are here with me today. I have Carly Vigna.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, we have Ben Charles.
Hi, everybody.
And Casey Cangelosi.
Hey, how's it going, y'all?
It's going well. Casey, will you tell us what does history say what happened on our release date?
Yeah, sure. On release date, so May 14th, just a couple birthdays and a cool percussion-related premiere. So, composer Nicholas Cherepyan is born on June 26th. Wait a minute, what is this? No, that can't be right. It said the 14th. Hang on.
On today's date, June 26th.
Oh, that's death. It's cool. It's all good.
Great start.
Yeah, 1873. Nicholas Cherepyan is born, and you may remember him from percussion literature class. And I know Ben has talked about these pieces before, but the ritmicas are argued like, oh, these might be the first percussion ensemble pieces. Ben, why aren't these the first percussion ensemble pieces?
So it depends on what metric you're using, but there were two works from the 1920s, the Cherepyan and the Shostakovich, that were both larger works that had a movement for percussion alone. And so those can predate the ritmicas. And then the ritmicas, they were six ritmicas, which are separate pieces, but 5 and 6 were for percussion only. So those could be considered the first, but they're a part of the set of pieces. And then ionization comes after that. And that's the first, just work for solo or for percussion ensemble alone.
Yep. Yeah. So part of the, the essay question that you should give your percussion students for their big final exams, like what is the first percussion ensemble ever written?
And count it wrong no matter what.
Yeah, right. It's like one of those well, it depends on how you see it kind of questions, which is why it's a good essay question. But anyway, yeah, he was born. Also, Lou Harrison was born 1917, so they share a birthday. Also, Alvin Lucier, 1931, they share a birthday. So that's three pretty significant percussion-related composers, and also the first performance of John Cage's Third Construction was premiered in San Francisco in 1941. So all that happened on release date.
Yeah, it's funny. My students make fun of me because they're like, I feel like every semester we play the first piece written for percussion. Like, well, it depends. But I found it interesting. A while back, I reported I should have done due diligence and found the episode number. But the Third Construction was premiered on a concert with several works, and it was also the same concert that Harrison and Cage's Double Music was premiered. So that shares the same premiere date. But yeah, I just remember seeing the program, and it was like, I think it was cost of admission $5, students $2 or something like that to hear some of the most famous percussion works of all time premiered. And the concert was, I think, dedicated to John Cage's wife, Xenia. So yeah, cool stuff.
Cool.
She's got a really cool name. Anyway, May 14 is also the day when we get to speak to Ronni Wenzell. Ronni, hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Hey, allow me to introduce you before we attack you with questions. But for those of you who happen to not know Ronni, he is an internationally active percussionist known for his appearances, which include some really fancy events like the Nike event in LA and the opening of Formula One in Shanghai and the Olympic Games in Rio. He performs in various chamber music settings. He is a member of the Libiao percussion group, and he is also part of the Wenzell and Boogie duo. How would that be a trio, Xenia? Never mind. As well as a soloist with symphony orchestras around the world. Perhaps you caught him on MTV, or maybe you know him from the CDs that he has recorded for Sony Music. He's also an educator. He taught at the National Danish Music Conservatory and the Brazilian Conservatory of Music, as well as held masterclasses all over the world. And he now serves as the president of PAS Brazil and is a freelancer. But probably the most famous thing that you know about Ronni is that he is the man who jumps over the marimba and takes off his sweater while playing. So, Ronni, welcome again.
Don't jump over marimbas.
Yeah, actually, that was a really crazy thing. I did a touring in the US set up by Disney Switzer, and they organized all the concerts. And at one university, I asked in the end of the master class if there were any questions, and one raised their hands like, yeah, I heard you can jump a marimba. Yeah, that's right. Could you, if it's okay with Professor Baum, could you do that? or tell us how to do it. Sure. And I did a small lecture on that. And then some years later, Maracatu Duo played a showcase concert. Not a showcase, it was an evening concert at PASIC. And they came on like, hey, we want you and Ivana to come play the last piece with us. And yeah, sure, okay, do. And then like, okay, in the end, you have to jump the marimba. They said that to me on stage. And I said, no, guys, I can't do that. Yeah, sure, you have to do this. Now I have a jacket. No, take off the jacket. No, but I came up with excuses like, no, but there's microphones. Hey, mic guy, you can move the mic. And then we played a little bit, and then Jason said, okay. And I jumped the marimba, and I just heard, I don't know how many thousands of people's breath just stopped, like, did he just do that? And there's a video out on YouTube saying, man jumped the marimba, or something like this. It's the weirdest thing. So yeah, sure. Yeah, this is one of my career highlights, jumping the marimba. Yeah.
So how do you give instruction on jumping the marimba? It seems like the only instruction on jumping marimba should be, hey, don't jump the marimba ever.
No, but you know, the first thing is that you start with some really cheap marimbas that you have to throw out anyway. No, you can
right.
No, I'm kidding.
One
thing that no.
Yeah, they exist. Yeah, it's marimba 1, right?
I've had a person ask me if I actually jump like on the long end, so from the base end. I mean, it's like no, that's not how it works. Really crazy.
You could though. You could.
Yeah,
You've got the spring in your step.
I believe you. Yeah.
It's just more training.
I did jump over. I think I told y'all co-host this before. I have jumped over the Nagoya marimba setup before, and it is possible. So of course you're jumping over like the high end and also the low end stacked. It's possible. So like you jump, and I thought, oh man, I'm gonna hit. This is when I was a student and an idiot, and I had to arch my back to not hit the marimba, and I cleared it, but I wiped out really hard on the ground.
Wow. Okay, that is impressive. I think you just took the title because I only jumped over the small end of the marimba.
Don't stick the landing though.
Yeah, and you have when you jump, you have to have a really good bounce and do not touch. You know, if you touch the key, just tighten them lightly to make sure that you do not land on the keys, but otherwise don't put your weight obviously on the marimba, just get over it. That's the idea of jumping. Anyway, any other questions?
There was another question. Kai Stensgaard asked, he said, looking forward to hearing the story of the marimba 1 cut into pieces. I already heard a part of it. Does this have anything to do with that, or was that a different venture? Oh,
that was you said sort of knowing what happened. That was a different adventure. I can see all the faces up here like, what's this about? And it's basically, if you want to date, go date, but if it's a Latin American woman, do not upset her too much, because if her heart gets ripped out, she will rip out your heart, and she will go after whatever is the most dear to you, which everyone can imagine is my marimba. So I toured, and I was driving around in the van, and my phone rang, and it was a friend, a Russian pianist, who called me, and she was almost crying on the phone, like, "What are you doing? I'm driving. Can you stop the car, please? I have something to tell you." And it's like, what is it? And did you stop the car? Yeah, sure. Okay, so I think your ex-girlfriend cut your marimba. It's like, what? And when I came home from the tour, everything was packed, obviously. So I packed everything out, and everything was nice until I got to the keys, and yeah, it was horrible. I got it fixed, and Pedro Caneiro from Portugal, he came to play with the National Symphony Orchestra here in Brazil, and he bought my marimba. I had it tuned before, and it's really well done how the guy has been tuning on top, because I had it from Europe brought to South America, which is a more humid climate, so wood expands a little bit, so he was able to keep the tuning well. But of course, it's bar, so you have to take care of it. And Pedro, he called me and said, it's very nice marimba, but you said it's recently been tuned there. It feels like the tuner didn't do such a good job, because I mean, it's And okay, well, the story listeners like, wow, it's a really good job. But it's there. I have it, and you can't see it anymore unless you really look closely. But that was like, yes, probably been the nightmare of my life.
So she took something sharp and carved up the bars, right?
Like keying your car, only she keyed your marimba.
Exact, just like that. Just very like this. And you could see how she's starting very aggressively, very deep, and then she's been running out of energy because, I mean, so you could. It was in the end. It was just like one line, and just like, oh, I'll just like do this instead. But it was. It actually, to be completely honest, and I don't want her to see the show because she'll feel as she wants. But it really took me. I couldn't deal with the trauma when I saw it. I packed it up again, and I just kept it packed for a while. I just couldn't. I mean, it was really crazy. I have a friend who's a psychologist. He said that when a person experiences a trauma that is too wild to deal with, the body just shuts down. You can't feel it. And then it just will open up. It will keep the lid on and just open up a little bit. So yeah, it was pretty wild. Yeah, but it's all okay now. But
if she is listening to the podcast, she can send any comments, or if she needs to mail anything to the podcast, it's Pius Chang, University of Oregon. Just mail whatever you need to. That's where we receive and transmit all our things.
Well, I was going to say, can we get her Skype name? I'd like to have her on sometime.
Let's get this story corroborated.
We're just hearing one side of this. Yeah.
And I tried to focus just on the marimba issue here. It was it was a little bit the same trauma experience I had. I had a lot of these stories. Ronni always have a lot of stories. I went to Italy to play, and it was all fine. And I said, I can only do this tour if I bring all my other stuff there that I have to play for the concert in Denmark right after. So, okay, great. They got a truck and they filled it up with all my instruments I was playing, including Safa, Safa, and a whole lot of stuff. And I got this really big, beautiful Slingerland bass drum that obviously is not produced anymore, and everything stacked with me. Down in Italy, I had to play a concerto for 3 octaves of tuned cowbell hanging up, and then I would be playing with orchestra, and it was a lot of fun. And after the concert, we stuffed everything into the car. I had 2 guys driving to Denmark. I would sleep in Italy, wake up, take the plane, and then I would have the first rehearsal with string orchestra for a concerto written for me. So I couldn't be driving myself. And then I wake up in Italy. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. My phone rings, and I take it. It's like, hey, Ronni, this is the driver. Said, how are you? And good. Okay, you just woke up. Do you sleep well? Yeah, sure. It's sort of like a weird phone call. Where are you now? In Germany? Yeah, we're in Germany. Listen, something happened. We're okay, but everything's not okay. And it was raining. Apparently, they were driving a little bit too fast. I don't know what happened. They had a turn, and it just aquaplaning. It's called I think it's called in Danish. So the car didn't turn when they had to turn, and they had 3.5 turns rolling. And these 3.5 boxes of 3.5 tuned cowbells were just put in boxes in the back. It just started like a tumbler, like throwing around inside, and it just chopped up everything in there. So it was unbelievable. This Slingerland bass drum, when I saw it's irreplaceable. I can't get this. I mean, just everything was just. I had to postpone this concert, and it was a really nightmare. But yeah, I have a lot of those stories, but I guess that's not really the whole reason. we should hook up at basic. That's going to happen for the coronavirus.
It's amazing seeing a truck full of wrecked percussion gear. I've seen it before, like timpani folded. You know, it happened once. I was in high school. The university that my hometown is in that I went to, and the professor I studied with, who I've talked about on the show before, Dennis Griffin. Yeah, there was a bad wreck. The ensemble was on, gonna go on a little mini tour. And yeah, they had gnarly fog, and they got they had a crash, and yeah, looking at the gear after, everyone was fine. So nothing serious, but wow, it's fascinating. You just don't see percussionists. You don't see timpani that are shaped like this.
And it really hurt. It actually physically hurt. No, but it's a trauma. We never forget these moments ever. Yeah.
Yeah, Ksenia, I think.
Wow. No, I was going to say, let's move on to some happier topics, like how does coronavirus affect you?
That's a good one.
On a happy note. Okay, so great. Okay, coronavirus. It's not the best thing happening right now, especially when you're 100% freelance based. So I've had concerts and tours just being canceled. I don't know if you guys know, but Shane was actually the PS Brazil international artist of this year. Woo-hoo.
For the year that was canceled, I was elected.
And we were all like, okay, so what do you want to do? And she said, yeah, it would be cool if we could do something together. Okay, let's do this and what? Okay, something with orchestra. So we worked so hard on this because in Denmark, if you speak with an orchestra or conductor and you just say, let's do this, and they say, great, let's do this, it's done. It's set. It doesn't work entirely like this in Brazil. There's a lot of like, great, and then it doesn't work, and then, oh, great, but then, oh, wait, we don't have an orchestra this week, or there's always things like upside down. But we worked really hard, and we got this whole month of tour with several orchestras, and it was really cool and intense. And it's just been canceled now. Everything's just on the floor. I was also invited to play at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. That's also been canceled. It's just everything's just falling apart. And of course, I'm running sort of like a depressed lifestyle right now because I'm following all the statistics and what's happening in different countries. Are things going to work out in the United States now for PASIC, or what's going to happen? Setting up some things before or after PASIC, or how, all those considerations. You can't really work towards anything when you don't know how things are working out. So that's a little bit tough right now. Luckily, I'm very proud of my country, Denmark, which has been really fast at shutting down the country. The government went in and said, we're going to pay 90% of everyone's salaries if no one gets fired, which is really cool. So everyone stays at home. That's amazing. They get whatever salary you get, you just keep getting that, and you can go out and buy stuff. We have healthcare for everyone, so that's not an issue either. It's not if you lose your job, you lose your healthcare, anything like this. So it just works. And actually, this week they were able to open up the kindergartens now for the first step to see, and it's amazing. They're already getting back on track, but just very few people passed of this disease. It's really cool. It doesn't work like this in Brazil at all. It's just difficult to get hand sanitizer. There was a video going viral here in Brazil with a woman getting so upset with a man in a shopping mall because he filled up the whole shopping cart with hand sanitizer just to buy it so he can sell it with profit afterwards. And this is sort of we can't really blame anyone for this because it's not Denmark. The government won't just go in and take care of you and help you and guide you and I mean, it's every man for themselves, and I will lose everything, and I need to get food for my family. And people have this idea, great, people's going to need this, so I'm going to get this and I'm going to sell it with that. I mean, this is how they think and this is how they survive. So can't really blame it, but I mean, so it's a little bit tough here, and it still looks like we're in the beginning of the mountain. And for those of you who know me, you know that I can't really sit still, and I always try to do things. And we got together, the Danes here in Rio. We got together with the Danish consulate, Danes worldwide, or Danes Abroad, I think it's called, and some different organizations, and then we found some projects, and we're fundraising a lot of money right now to help, because who's going to be hit the most is the people in the favelas, the poor people who are living in very crowded spaces, who doesn't have access to clean water, soap, masks, all the food, even when there's no jobs. It's all those people who are driving the buses, working in the supermarkets, and are touching everything all the time and meeting so many people all the time. It's a luxury that you can step back, stay at home, and just try and wait it out. That's so in that sense, we're very blessed that we can do this, and we have these possibilities, and we should try and spend our time on helping people who really need this, who can't get to a hospital and get what they need and all this. Yeah. So that was a lighter topic. Again, yeah.
You are totally right, and that is very selfless of you, and it is sort of keeping, perspective on things. Yes, nobody has it easy, but there are definitely some people who are being hit or potentially going to suffer way more than many of us are. So it's really important that we take care of them to the best of our abilities. So thank you. So, I mean, we've managed to, like, in 15 minutes, I almost pee myself laughing, and then also get some really wise words. So I think we can stop here. But no, actually, let's get, Carly wanted to say something.
Well, as we're comparing, I mean, even the way that different countries are dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, Ronni, I'm wondering, since you grew up in Europe and now you're living and working in Brazil, and you've toured extensively in different countries, do you notice there are differences in percussion education in different countries? And if so, do you see anything that seems to work really well?
Very, very good question. And there's definitely a difference. Yes. Okay. So when I came to Brazil the first time, I landed in Rio, and I went out to a place called Lapa, and I was so deeply fascinated how they were playing this samba. There were just some guys standing under a bridge, and it was just playing, and how it would work, and the swing they had. It was so amazing. My brain just had a complete overload for 20 minutes, just staring at the groups like, let's move on. No, wait. I need to figure this out. And I think, obviously, that everything we do and how we do it is always connected to our cultural basis, and how the government works, and how we get through life. And in Denmark, we work a lot with our heads and all mathematical things. And if you build up Safa, how to all this, and very practical, and just work your way through it. In Brazil, it's much more based on just feeling it out and just being there. And an instrument, I was asking when I came the first time, I was asking about the different instruments, and they're just like, there's so many. And so, well, I know there's a lot, but what are the basically, okay, this is this, and the guy showed me, it's called a bauji. It's a sort of a trash can. And he'd been drilling holes in it, and then he'd take like small screws and put in there. So when you shake, it's like, and it was a mess, but it was like beautiful at the same time. And then when they all play, it just gets a swing, and it's a little bit like how the Brazilian culture works. It's just a lot of people at the same time. It's all a big mess, but somehow they just manage it. They just get through it. So when everyone plays at the same time, it's just, wow, it's amazing. It's just, you would be standing there with your pad in Denmark, and you'd be like, okay, wait. So is that do, or is it like, wait, let me get this? This is not how it works here. And if you take this, they grow up in this, and they grow up with this samba culture in it. All Brazilians, they can dance samba. It's amazing. They all can do this thing with that thing, pandeira. They can all play. It's amazing. Everyone, they can do it better than I can. And everyone's like, you're a percussionist. You can do this. And in Brazil, it's like, no. I can't do that at all. And when I came to Denmark, I was like, yeah, I totally can. I'm the boss. And I look at this and be like, wow, you can do it. Just make sure there are no Brazilians nearby, so you see that. But they are born into this, and they just have this in their bodies. When I came here, the Ministry of Culture, I had a great support from the Danish government, from the Ministry of Culture, sending me down here, and they connected me with the embassy and the Danish Cultural Institute. And we had a meeting and say, okay, so the Ministry of Culture, they asked us to help you complete your projects because they have invested in you. So we want to make sure that you are able to do what you want to do to the fullest extent. And one of the first things I said, yeah, great, awesome, really cool. One of the things I want to do is to bring the Danish Royal Ballet on tour. There's a company called Company B within the Danish Royal Ballet. And I was working as a pianist at the Danish, principal pianist at the Danish Royal Ballet for 4 years. So I said, I know this and they're really cool. I want to make a tour for them. It was a monster project. And one of the things that they were so amazed about, and the Danish Royal Ballet are world famous for their ballet. We have Wenzell, which just attracts every ballet dancer to Denmark to try and learn this technique. And what was really cool was all these instructors that came on this tour, they were looking at these Brazilian ballet dancers like, wow, they dance with the whole body. It's just in them. They just feel it. So getting back to the question, is there a difference? There's definitely a difference. And the way that they teach and do this is sort of the same thing. It comes from sort of from their body and how they play. Though what is interesting in classical percussion, contemporary percussion, it is a little bit outside their field in terms of, and I'm going to tell my truth as much as I can without getting too much in trouble with the Brazilian percussionists. They're great, but I used to say that, or I always say that the classical percussion, which sort of is classical music, which is sort of from Germany or Italy or from Europe, it becomes our samba in a way. I was raised into this. This is just, I heard this when I was a kid. I was a baby growing up into this world. It's just a part of me. Samba is not a part of me. I can learn it and I can do my best. And all the Brazilians they just know it. They know if you say, I was like, what did you say? I was like, no, but you just feel it. No, but I'm not going to feel anything. I'm just going to be blah, 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 blah. It's not going to make any sense, right? So they just know the answer suddenly because it's just their culture, their life. And in that sense, I think that classical music or classical percussion is sort of the same for them as samba is to me. I mean, they have to learn it. I speak Danish. That's my identity. I learned to speak English. When I speak, I have to think, or I speak Portuguese or German or anything else. It's the same here. They speak Portuguese. They just speak. They think it. It's just the way it is. If they have to speak Danish, they have to study and think and then learn that. So I think there's a very big difference. And when I came there's a lot of universities, also in the United States, who said, wow, we want to send our students to you there. And I said, just make sure to know that whatever is sort of like one level down. So whatever is the conservatory level in Brazil is the college level in Denmark. So it's sort of like one level down. Just whatever level we're in, make sure that if you send a student from there, he has to go there. Or if you have a college student, make sure to send him to the conservatory because that's the students are very old when they graduate here, old compared to Denmark. I was playing marimba spirituals when I was about 15, 16 years old. And if you have a good student here, they will graduate playing marimba spirituals maybe. So that's sort of that difference, and that's because we're born into it. When I go to the music school in Denmark, my place we had 10 marimbas, and everyone playing really well, and it's like wow, and that's just sets the bar. Then okay, you have to. And here, how does anyone get the money to buy a marimba? Brazil is a huge country. It's bigger than Europe, so they have a protectionism where they say we're gonna charge 108% on top of whatever instrument it is. So, and marimba, let's just come up with a number, 10,000, right? Will suddenly be 20,000 or plus shipping and plus It gets crazy. Marimba one said, great, congratulations. We're going to send a marimba down to you. And they send it, and we're going to cover everything. They send it, it bounced back. They couldn't get it in. And they tried again. I couldn't get it. They tried. Ron tried everything. And then I had a talk with one of the distributors of another company that I don't want to mention here. And I said, how do you do? He said, we did that. It took a year until we learned that. Well, there should be some money going a place so your piece of paper gets on top of the pile and it gets processed. And Ron said, I don't want to do this. I can't do that. I'm not going to do this. So that's how difficult it is. And then if you imagine, if you have to buy an instrument, a marimba costs what a marimba costs. It's not suddenly much cheaper in South America or Brazil. So I had to work 2.5 hours at the conservatory in Denmark to earn what I get for 1 month full time at the conservatory. That takes me 2.5 hours. And that makes a huge difference. Imagine this. In Denmark, the education is for free. The most expensive education is musical or arts, because you need one-on-one teaching. You cannot just gather like 100 students, like, okay, you all play 1, 2, 3, go. And then, okay, that's great. Now it doesn't work. You need one-on-one students. So that's why that's the most expensive education you have. And here in Brazil, you do have some options on. You have some federal universities where it's free, but it's really, really, really difficult to get in there. The bar is really high. So what you do, you need to pay your way. So first of all, you don't earn as much at all as you do in Denmark. You maybe have to pay for your education. The instruments are like more than double as expensive as in Denmark. It's completely off balance, so you have students coming into the conservatory and you need to make an audition. Well, can you play something in marimba? Well, I've never seen a marimba. Which then means that they are one step behind and they are much older when they graduate.
Yeah, that's I can totally relate to this, and I just find it really interesting, and this is without meaning to sound condescending to any of the countries who just don't happen to be fortunate enough to be very orderly or very wealthy. I mean, these things come from financial wealth as well as, organization. But can you tell us a little bit of how this shift, or why did you move from such an organized, society to one where they, play with their hearts and dance with their full bodies? And how did that impact your career now that you've been there for quite a while?
Yes, this is a very, very interesting question. So when you always have to say that, right? That's a very good question.
Yeah, please thank us. Yeah.
You don't have to say that here. It's okay.
I know, but it is actually a very interesting question. And it did impact my career in two different ways. First of all, when you become a guest professor at the conservatory, you feel like, wow, that's really cool. You're moving to the other side of the world. You're moving to like a mecca of percussion, which is really interesting. And 6 years ago, when I moved here, Rio was sort of like hot in terms of what you want to do and what you want to study. There's a ton of percussionists from all around the world coming down from the United States and from different parts of the world just to be here for 1 month and check it out. And I had contact with them. I sent them to samba schools, and it's sort of like when you go to PASIC year after year, you can see what's popular. There's 1 year everyone was handing out business cards, promoting themselves. Next year, everyone had to play cajon. Next year, you see these waves when you're there year after year. You can sort of like get an idea of this. And Rio was really hot when I moved. So it was a really cool thing that I moved here. And it was a step on my ladder. I took some classes with a Swedish coach when I lived in Denmark, listing what I wanted to do, how to achieve them, and all this. And after a while, that paper got put in a drawer somewhere. So when I packed my stuff, I found that list and looked, and the first thing on my list was become a guest professor at a university or conservatory anywhere in the world. That was really cool when I was packing my stuff to move to Brazil. So that was really cool. And it was a nice lift, and as Rio or Brazil, Rio was hot. There was a lot of steam around it. Then I started getting these questions, especially from Brazilians, saying, "Why are you here?" And one percussionist, Tim from England, he was asking me, "Ronnie, I don't get this. Why don't you get a job at a university in the United States that have the funding? If you need a marimba, they'll just buy a marimba, or there you have to like fight for every single step." I came there, and all the instruments at the conservatory was borrowed stuff from one guy. And then I spoke with the director and said, what is this? I mean, you need to get your own stuff, and let me speak with my sponsors. And Sabian said, "Okay, Ronnie, we're going to support you. So we're going to give them some symbols and They have to pay the imposter, the tax themselves, which is 108%. And then the school just said, we can't. We don't have the money. So even though they were getting a present, they just couldn't receive it. So why didn't you get a job at a place that pays really well and students have abilities to just fly off? And I said, well, it's because in Denmark we have a guy called Ben Lylov, which is like 3 generations from me, and he was a guy who brought this classical orchestra percussion to Denmark. He taught the Safri duo. Everyone knows, I guess, Safri duo. He was the teacher of them, and everyone knows him. Edition Switzer has also published some stuff from him. It's really cool, Nutcracker and stuff like this. That is or Aarhus Institute, which is often used for auditions still to this day. So I thought if I want to do an impact, I want to do a major impact. I have all these sponsors, I have this help, I have great education. I'm going to go down there. I'm just going to push. I mean, everyone said, Ronnie, you do 1 week of work in half a week in 3 days. The thing with you is you don't take 4 days vacation. You put in another thing. You work so relentlessly hard. So I thought, I'm going to do this. I can lift this. I want to be a part of helping people who otherwise don't have access to these things so easily. And suddenly my focus has been a lot in Brazil, which also sort of have had, to some extent, some consequences. Because if you focus on one thing, you're also choosing not to focus on other things. I also think it comes with age, that it's about me, and like my old teacher, he always said, all of us musicians, we are small divas who can only think about ourselves. And if you give a feedback to it, like you get a little bit offended, like, oh, he said something about me, or joking, of course, but there's to some extent some truth in it, right? We all know, and especially you guys know, that Evelyn Glennie has also been working relentlessly on her solo career. And it's like this with Li Biao or whoever has been doing this. It takes a ton of work, and people who reach that level, they can only reach it by working so hard and focusing on just one thing. So if you start thinking, okay, I'm going to try and help these people here, suddenly with only 24 hours a day, you don't have time to do, or you don't do other things. Another major concern for me or an issue became that festival from France called me, would like to have you in for a concert. How much it's going to cost? I said, well, I need the flight ticket. I need, of course, a hotel, and I prefer not flying or landing on the same day that I have to play the concert. So, and suddenly my fee is going to be 3 times as much as anyone else's fee. So they can get 3 artists instead of me, which sort of, so I have a duo, which for a second was a trio, but I
apologize for the
no. The funny thing is, we recently just played in Norway, and we had an interview with a journalist who also called us a trio. It was really funny. I think it's even on video somewhere. So there must be something going on there. But now I'm losing my thread here. Yes, but the duo, when we do things now, it has to be a minimum of 1 week touring. And I remember when I was a student playing, I was like, I just want to play this Safa Senakis. This is like my it's a huge mountain to conquer, and you fight and fight, and you use a whole year to get like halfway up this mountain. And then when you have to make your own concert, that's like major challenge. You make your own concert, and then if you can make a tour, that's like 3 concerts in a row. That's like, that would be the craziest thing in my life. Why, this would be a really honor. I can make 3 tours. I don't care. I can eat McDonald's. I don't have to be paid. I will pay the transport myself. I can sleep on couches with my friends. I just want to make a tour. It's really cool. And then reach a point where you're just like, we are not going to accept anything less than 1 week tour. That's a minimum. And that's pretty aggressive when you think about that. Later on, it's like, wow, that's really, it's not because we're snobby. It's just because of all the, if I have to fly to Denmark, it's an instant flight ticket, need to get the instruments, we need 1 day of practicing at least. And, it's all, I travel, it takes like 20 hours to travel, and 20 hours later, I cannot just spend 5 days for just 1 concert. It's not going to work out. So in that sense, it has been a little bit rough on my international career. For instance, I haven't been to the States for a while now, actually. And on top of that, I also got a son. And you also start getting much more selective on what you want to do. When you don't have anything else, it's like, yeah, great, cool, sounds great. I want to do that, great. Now you're like, am I going to be abroad for 10 days earning nothing, for instance, or I'm going to stay home? I'm going to stay home. It's really tough when you travel. You have last time I toured, I was driving and my phone rang, and it was my son. He wanted to talk. I was like, okay, great. But daddy's driving. Daddy's coming home. No. Daddy's not coming. Daddy's driving to a hotel now. Are you coming home tomorrow? No. Then daddy's going to go to another hotel and another hotel, and that for 10 days. And then daddy's going to go to the airport, and then it's going to be another day. And then daddy's home. Yay. And I made this small paper for him where I wrote all the numbers of every day in circles. And in between, I put like a photo of a vibraphone and a drum, and I drew like a daddy and mommy and him, and then a phone. He can always call me. He has access to me if he wants. La 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 la. And I promised him when we come home we're going to bake cookies. He loved to bake cookies with me. So I drew this. We're going to bake cookies when I come home. And I said, you cross out every day, and when you have crossed out everything, daddy's going to be home. So the first Skype talk we have, he's going to go cross. He crosses everything off like this. And he's like, great, are you coming home now? That was the deal. I crossed everything off. And it's like, no, that's not really the deal, and then I was like, okay, let me just, so that's, it definitely made a huge impact on my life and what happens in your life, and what decisions you take when you're younger and when you get older, and your focus. And if you want to help other people, you're not going to focus so much on yourself, and all this.
Yeah, all that stuff that they say is true.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Yep, all that stuff they say is totally true. So back to your school, and just so we're really clear what everyone understands, you try to bring a marimba in. Customs stops it, and they say, okay, what is this instrument worth? And you have to declare, either yourself or the company that shipped it has to say, well, this is worth $10,000. And then they go like, great, so you have to pay $28,000 to bring it in, because there's an additional 108% tax on it, right? Yeah, so that's what we're talking about here, right? Yeah, just so everyone understands. So like, how then do you teach this classical percussion program and be the head of this percussion program if you can't have access to these instruments? And I think it really parallels what we with around the world. All our percussion students went home where they may have no instruments at all, or they may have just this instrument or just that instrument. And all of us teachers have had to get really creative on the types of things that we're going to teach now and how we're going to teach. How do you do it? Like, how do you do it without all the gear you need? How do you teach timpani without timpani? How do you teach marimba without marimba? Or do you teach something else?
There is instruments down here. First of all, when the instrument comes to the customs, and then it would be, we all think, okay, easy, so they'll say it has this value, you have to pay this. It's not always like this because it just gets stuck. You don't know where it is. You have to like run after it, and then as the distributor of this other company that I don't want to mention any names, not to get them in trouble, they're saying, yeah, you have to go there and speak with him and become your friend, and then you pay a little bit, and then things start to work out. So it's not just you get a boom and it's just fixed. It's more complicated. Even Marimba One said we're gonna take care of this, and they shipped it with FedEx and say any questions, just give it to us. We're gonna take care of this. Of course, they have a Marimba One artist located now in Brazil, and they want to grow this. I mean, he's located at a university or a conservatory. It's great for the student and growing. So there are instruments. There are many instruments. There are many instruments from Brazil. First of all, because then they will come up with something, and it might not be Marimba One, which is like the best marimba in the world.
We agree.
I'm waiting for Case's reaction.
A lot
here.
of Marimba One people in the room. Those are those ones made of cardboard, right?
Casey, you're outnumbered. Don't go there.
I'm just asking a question.
So it might not be the greatest instrument that they have put up there, but it works. And there will be a ton of bars that is broken, and they don't have money to replace this. One of my students, he was really excited because this is not, but normally you put tiles here on the walls, and his dad had been cutting out tiles in the shape of bars, putting it on some pieces of wood, and then he could like practice marimba at home. That's a solution. It doesn't sound at all great. I don't presume that's tuned at all, but he's able to work his way through it. This is why many people say the coronavirus will not really be such a big issue here in Brazil, because the Brazilians, they always find a way to get, if there's no ventilator, they will freaking build one somehow out of a McDonald's paper bag, and they will find a way somehow. And I'm not so sure if you can really just figure your way through coronavirus. This is not that kind of problem, but that's a whole nother thought. But in this sense of reed instrument, they will take a bucket and they will drill holes and they will put screws in it and they will be rattling with it. They will find their way through it. So in that sense, they do it. So you have all the federal universities, and they have some money to put in this. And the way they do it, and they will get some offers, and then they will always take the cheapest solution, which unfortunately suffers. And then you have a ton of percussionists who will go to the United States, for instance, PASIC, buy instruments, put it in the suitcase, go through customs, say, well, I went to PASIC to play, and that's my instrument, and they'll make them a little bit dirty. They will put some stickers on it. They will, of course, remove all the original packing, all that kind of stuff. And one of the first things I started working on, it took years to work out with Sabian, was first things I did as a PS president was we need to figure a way to solve this with the instrument. And with the Sabian distributor and Sabian, we were able to push the prices so hard that we ended up providing the price of the cymbal would be 50% of the price here, which means, and it's including the tax. So they've been cutting so dramatically in the price that even though you add 108%, it's still matching device prices. And of course, There was a whole, this is crazy, and can we do that also with this and this and this? And it took years to work out, and the whole Sabian organization was in on it, and it's a major project. But that's how much you have to, and I mean, Sabian needs to earn their money. I mean, it's, they cannot always just cut down the prices like this. And just, I remember even one within the Sabian organization said to me, "We're losing money on this, but we're taking the money we're losing as a market share investment." So this is definitely not a viable solution or future thing we can keep doing, but so there are cymbals being produced in Brazil. There was a guy working at Marimba One, Brazilian guy, who moved to Brazil, and then he started making his own marimbas. When I saw it the first time at a festival, I was like, oh, there's another Marimba One. I have mine, but there's another. When there's not at all a Marimba One, but it has the exact same. It was produced with a wave, and everything is the same. I as a Marimba One artist, couldn't see the difference until I started playing on. It's like, wow, this is definitely not a Marimba One. So that's how. That's the way you get around 108%. So they have, to some extent, they have instruments.
Yeah, it's great to know because I feel like a lot of students here, they're so used to their university, and then all of a sudden they don't have them. They're like, what do I do? It's like, well, imagine, if you were dealing with not having everything anyway, like you're very lucky to have a university full of stuff waiting for you. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it reminds me so much of one of my favorite books is called The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. I might have mentioned it on here before, but he talks about brick walls, and this just so much makes me think of brick walls. Like, I want to play marimba, but there's no marimba here. And I'll just quote the book. He says, "The brick walls are there for a reason. They're not there to keep us out. The brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we want something." I think it's like perfect in line with what Ronnie's talking about here.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I usually, when students come up to me and say, so should I become a musician? Should I, or what do you think? Or I'm really into it, and should I become, I say, no, you shouldn't. Like, wait, what? You're a musician? Yeah, I know. I shouldn't know. It's really difficult. It's tough. It's hard. It's really relentless amount of work, and don't. If you can choose something else, choose. And I say this. Of course, I want people to become musicians, but I'm not going to lure them into becoming musicians. That's not going to work. If you say to someone, yeah, come, they're going to have a crash. I've seen this before. If you say, no, you shouldn't, we know deep inside, I want to be a musician. You will go and ask the next one until someone tells you the answer that you feel you want to know. If you say no to a student and they'll do it anyway, you know for a fact they're going to do it. We know that the music business is hard, so we shouldn't be like, come. I'm going to give you, there's a box of gold by the end of the rainbow. I mean, this is not what, I mean, we are musicians because we love music. We cannot not play. Right now, my family are in a vacation house. We moved outside the city to get away. I have no instruments there. I'm losing my mind. I need to breathe. It's a weird thing. I need my instruments. I need to do something with music. I need to play. And my girlfriend got a little bit upset the day that I told her that my best moment in life is when I'm touring, because that's when I'm doing exactly what I'm here in the world to do. And she was a little bit offended that I wouldn't say it's you love, it's Latin American, just flowers and big words, but it's the way it is. I love traveling. I love playing music. Then I play and I can do my very best, and I feel I do make a difference when I play music. I also make a difference with my son and my wife and all this, but that's in my, they're also in my heart, of course. But you know what I mean, right? It's yeah.
Well, it's you doing what you feel you're meant to do. Like that's what we all need. Yeah. Well, Ronnie, we have a Facebook question from listener Johnny Davidson. And Johnny asks, what was your musical training like and how were you introduced to percussion? And then he also writes, I ask how you were introduced because I believe you started out on piano, if memory serves. Yeah, and if my memory serves right, he attended a masterclass once. He's a very, very nice guy. So let's see if I can get the same story as I said that time in the masterclass. Everyone is doing this podcast knows I'm not kidding. No, you go there, you meet up like, so is there anything important you want me to say, Professor? Yeah, they never practice. And okay, so go in like, yeah, I practiced like a horse and like really, really hard. And then, so you put your focus on, tweak the story a little bit. Okay, so going all the way back, when I was a kid, I started playing drums. I actually, for some reason, wanted to play flute. No offense to flute players.
I'm saying that in terms of I'm clearly a percussionist deep in my heart. So for some reason, I had the illusion that I wanted to play flute. And there were no flute spots, so I was able to start playing percussion. And I started playing drum set. The drum teacher said, okay, you should go and study with this teacher, which is a classical percussion teacher. And then you should also start with piano and ear training and music history and ensemble playing. And really fast, I had a ton of stuff to do when I was young. And what happened was that at some point, I was growing all these things together, and I loved playing piano as well. And at one point, I went to my percussion teacher and said, so what should I choose? Should I choose to play percussion or should I choose to play piano? And he said, you should choose percussion. Obviously, percussion is you. And then I went to my piano teacher and I asked the same question. The professor, do you think I should choose to play percussion or choose piano? And I was super waiting for him to say piano. And he was like, no, you should play, of course, percussion. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, obviously, because you're a percussionist, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Ronnie. You know, if you wanted a career within piano, it's I mean, you see these 2-year-old Chinese kids playing Rachmaninoff's, exaggerated, but you know, it's really really tough, and you already behind if you go that career. So definitely percussion, because it's much easier and no one knows anything about percussion. It's just shows and you just play loud and fast and everyone loves you. So you should definitely.
That's sad but true, probably.
Oh, okay, so he also said percussion. So I went the percussion way, but I never left the piano. It's always been following me. So when I started at the music conservatory, I also played piano at the conservatory, and I graduated with honors there also, and when I lost my parents when I was young, so when I lost my dad and my mom, I just stopped everything for half a year, started to go into a psychologist, and when I came back and wanted to like get into things again, I asked around at the conservatory, and one professor said, actually we are in need of assistance down by the Danish Royal Ballet, and I started going there. Helping out, and I ended up growing within this, and I ended up being the principal pianist there, which means that I had great piano chops, playing like 4 hours every day, and side reading. You would be side reading everything. Okay, now we're gonna do the swan leg. Okay, I'm going like okay, where the swan gets in, like what swan gets in, where's the swan, let me find it. Okay, go, now it's not there, sorry. It's super stressful. You have a whole company waiting for you, so just playing again. So this way you are being pushed to another level. I always felt that my piano skills were transferred to the marimba. When you play, you sort of have this different overview than just playing drum. So when you sight read piano music, you have a different overview. Like, for instance, that's the orchestra parts, and you have to figure out what's important and play those parts. You have a different overview than when you have to play the snare drum sight reading thing. One time I played, and I'm sorry to bring it up, Casey, I played Pius's E minor, and it was really, really late. It was really late. It was like 1 a.m. in my studio, and I was playing this, and I had tired eyes, and I was like, holy, did he write this? I mean, this is insane. I mean,
is it supposed to be that tempo? Yeah.
No, but I was studying it slowly, so this was really insane. The next day when I come back, next morning, I found out that I'd actually misread, and it was not that crazy, which meant that then I was just like, ha, this is easy. You know, it's just this. This is not a problem. And we all know that it's not easy. And we all know that Pius also recorded halftime and just pushed up, push up.
That's how he does everything. Yeah. Pitch correct. Yeah. Everybody knows that.
So whoever didn't know this, now they know. And this is the same way when I sight read or was sight reading piano music or orchestral scores, and then you would go to the marimba things with only 4 mallets, that would feel easy, right? Instead of feeling like this, like, what? It's just 4 mallets, or it's just 4 notes, or it's just a snare drum. It's just a rhythm. It's never just a rhythm, but you get my point in a reading aspect. And this way, it's been helping me a lot. My piano teacher was also he was German, and he was a composer also. And alongside with the piano training, he would teach me the dynamics of chords and harmonies, and he would take out my left hand and say, for one piece, and say, I took off the left hand. Now you have to build up a left hand. We figure out why it should be. So he would build this up. I would build it, come up, we would talk about this. And that also makes me understand, I believe, some things about playing marimba. I would be playing Ravel's what is called Temporada de Graciosa. I would be playing this as a duo thing, and then I was discussing with my colleague where the peak should be, the top of the mountain musically, the harmony would be. And discussing this, he said, "No, it's the highest note. And it's not. It's da 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 da. For instance, it's not the highest note. It's there, and we would be discussing this. And I would feel that this piano training has given me a ton of understanding of these things. He would be teaching me on pedaling relentlessly German. No, this is not correct. This is not correct. And so when I play vibraphone, I have another thinking of pedaling, rather than you see the students just like pedaling on every quarter note, like it's just, obviously that's
That's exactly how it is.
Well, you can never go wrong with that. Doesn't matter what you're playing, that works.
Yeah, so that's sort of my musical upbringing.
Ronni, you said something just real quick in passing, and gosh, I'm sorry if you don't want to share it. We don't have to include it. But you said you lost your parents, and I didn't know that. And do you ever share this story? Because I mean, you're this really successful percussionist, and you're doing what a lot of young people aspire to, but obviously that's a huge life hurdle, and that could be that's really inspiring. Just like, because we played together at a PASIC many years ago and had a blast, and we bumped into each other a couple times, and it's always been a blast. But I didn't know that about you, and I would have never thought, like, yeah, this dude conquered like one of the hugest hurdles imaginable. Is that something you share? Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, I don't mind sharing it, and I don't share it so often because of the decisions that I took when I was younger. So I lost my mom to cancer, lung cancer, and 2 years later I lost my dad with an accident. He had an accident and died, choking accident. And at that age, I remember everyone was sort of like wrapping me in how do you say, eggshells, like, oh yeah, okay, so
bubble wrap.
And exact bubble wrap, exactly. And I did not want to feel that. I just had a huge hole in my life, and I don't want to be not living that part of my life that was untouched in a way, right? So that was what I could hold on to. And suddenly that was sort of like, oh, everyone's like nursing me, like, hey, I want to stay as normal as I can. Nothing will be normal right now, but I need to hold on to something. And I'm sure I didn't really comprehend at that time what it meant. I was very scared of when my mom was sick and what was going to happen. And my mom died 2 years before my dad. So when my mom died, I had this whole thinking about I need to live 100% every day, and I need to push through and just do whatever I want to. And my friend, one of my friends who's a psychologist, he said, yeah, okay, you want to do that. Well, though, you want to live 95% full on, and then 5% if you're going to survive tomorrow. You're going to spend all your money on a casino one day, and then the next day you're like, damn, I woke up. Now what, right? So you want to live like this. And then when my dad died, everything crashed down, and everything from my mom crashed down again. I hadn't any help from a psychologist when my mom died, so I just said, it's not going to bring her back, and that's the only thing I want. So I'm just going to move on. And when my dad died, everything just came down again, like including my mom with my dad and a ton of other stuff. I lost my short-term memory. That was really weird. I had to give my phone number. I gave my old phone number when I was living as a kid with my mom. I was calling my, at that time, girlfriend's dog by the name of my family's dog. And it was really weird. You were there consciously seeing this happening. And it's just like, wow, something's really, really off with my head. And I started with counseling, like a psychologist. I took half a year off, and I didn't touch anything. And we all know how it is. All your friends, I was at the conservatory at that time, all your friends, they just practice 10 hours a day. And you don't touch anything for half a year. So suddenly when you have to go back, that's a horrible feeling. You know, you're like, well, I'm so behind. I'm never going to be able to catch up, and I can't do it. And my psychologist said, you just have to start. If you don't start, you're never going to reach anything, right? You want to be in position. And maybe go there in the evenings, start at home, or like try and, if that feels better for you. And all the projects that were in the school, I was like separated from, because, you know, Ronni lost his parents and we feel sorry for him. And it's great, and it's loving that you have these people around you who think about you, empathize. But in the end, you also realize, if I want a career, I cannot, you know, I should get this job because, you know, my parents died. This is not going to work out. In the end, we're all going to be on the same line. So I just have to push to do it. And I wasn't very young, and it was really, really tough to deal with all those things. And everyone's like, you know, I have financial problems. So, you know, my dad just chipped in, or my parents are going to pay my rent this time. I never had anything of this. So it was just me or sort of nothing. I have my brother and my sister, but, you know, they're not my parents. And I think that's why in some way it transformed the way of thinking in terms of my solo career, that I need to push. There will never be anyone to babysit me. There will never be anyone to catch me. If I don't earn my money, I have to pay my rent, or whatever it would be. If I, you know, and I can't be living on the fact that my parents died. That's not going to bring me anywhere in the end. And I think that pushed me through. So, of course, I don't suggest any percussionist to wish that their parents should die so they could get this aggressive attitude towards building a career. But so in some way, I don't really bring it up so much on master classes or friends, or, I mean,
yeah. I'm glad you did, because, you know, on the show we try to have a good diverse set of co-hosts, and we also try to have a diverse group of guests, and it's harder. I think just the same way people say representation is important, like racial representation or gender representation. You need to see people like you who are successful. This is much harder to see, because no one would know this about you just by looking at you. And just like you need to see someone who is like you, who is successful, we need to see people who have survived loss and gotten through it and are also successful. That's another form of representation that I don't think anybody ever talks about. So thanks for sharing, and I hope you keep sharing it somehow. I mean, I think it is important that people know, like, hey, you can encounter that, and it's quite possible to not only get through it, but get through it and achieve some of your biggest dreams still. You know, as I had a student that lost his father this semester, and man, I mean, it's great. I can tell him about you now, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
aside from that, you would not have any reason to tell him about me, but now.
No, he has no idea who you are. No, I've never talked about you to anyone.
I have a reason to bring you up. No. No, but it's the same thing with. I know you spoke with Evelyn Glennin, and it's the same with her battle with the hearing issue, that she doesn't, or she can't build her career on that, and she tried to suppress that fact and just focus and get in line with everyone else and push. That's the same thing, even though of course it is super inspiring, the fact that she doesn't have full hearing like all of us do, and how long she's come and she's overcome that challenge. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and she talks about going through phases, like, doesn't want to be remembered and known for someone with this disability. But I think, the way she described it, she now realizes there's this other value to including that in her story again, Yeah.
You did with me now.
That's right.
That point that you talked about, that happened right here on the 20th of November.
It's sort of like I bear this huge burden and that I'm Pius Chang's only friend. It's exhausting. It's a burden. It's a cross nobody else bears. It's incredibly difficult.
Poor Pius, he's been called out so many times.
Poor me. That was the point. Yeah, poor me. I'm the one providing the service.
Of course, good job. Well, Pius, you are welcome. We popularized you, and we've provided you with your only friend, so you're welcome. I've never met him. I just buried any potential of ever having a nice interaction with him, so I apologize. I have great respect for you guys.
And I'm sure also with you, Casey, there are so many stories, but maybe not for a public podcast.
Oh, you need to listen more. No, I'm an open book about all of it. Yeah, it's all out there. Some of it might even be exaggerated.
And what I've been experiencing, with Pius also, how he. No, I'm not. It was like this. I want to hear this now. We have a second podcast coming up.
We should.
Hey, well, thank you so much for being on our podcast, Ronni, and for sharing all of your fabulous insight on life and music and everything in between. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I loved it. And take good care and see you soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks,
Bye,
Ronni.
everyone.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
Bye.